And we're on! We're on! Let me just make sure that it's coming up on our Facebook page as well. Good morning, everybody. If you can see us, it's Spirit Hive time. Let me see. Oh, Mark is working. Oh my goodness, it's working.
Am I working?
We are working.
Okay.
We are live, my friend. We are live.
Excellent.
This is very, very cool. Okay, so welcome everybody. Welcome to Spirit Hive. As we get stuck into, today's amazing session.
We're stuck.
I know. It's stuck in my throat. So you guys can see I've got my mum here. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mamas out there. How lovely to see you guys. And welcome. And let's just give all of our mums a thunderous round of applause. I'm using this new software called Ecamm, and I've got a couple of different things. I've got a bike horn. Yep. I've got a DJ. And we've got party. Happy Mother's Day.
That's bad.
It's really so bad, isn't it? So I'm still trying to figure it all out, guys, but thanks for being so patient with us. Good morning. Hey, Ange. How great to see you here. So, guys, I want to let you guys know that Angela Council, who has just posted a comment on our page to say good morning, she is keen to join us as one of our speakers, and she's based in Sydney, which is really, really cool. So I'm very,
awesome.
very excited. I know. Ange and I have been, it's almost, probably about 7 years, but Ange and I are like soul sisters. And even more than that, it's almost like I think we came to this planet together at different times, but there's a thread. You know those people where there's just that thread? Yeah, that's her.
Absolutely.
That's her.
Yep.
Sherelle, that's so bad, it's good. I love it.
It is pretty bad.
Yeah. So guys, welcome to Spirit Hive. Obviously you've got me and you've got Mark here today with you guys, and we're really, really excited, and we're going to kick off straight away because we know half an hour tends to just, hey Sharon,
It's nothing, Kat. It's nothing. No.
And now that there's two of us who both don't mind a bit of a chat, it's possible that we might run out of time, but we've got to be out of here by 9:30 so that Michelle can jump on for the kids. So all of you guys that have got kids, get them ready. Michelle's doing a session that's for kids that's young and also heading up into early teens this morning. So anybody that's got kids up to about 13 or 14, you want to get your kids to watch it, because today we're talking all about the purpose of contrast. And I'm going to be sharing with you guys how we can really utilize what contrast is all about. And then Mark is going to be talking to us about how we can manifest in the direction of what we want by utilizing that contrast. So it's going to be a super creative session, full on and fast. So make sure that you've got your notepads and your pens, because you are going to want to take notes for this one. But of course you can always come back and listen to the recording of it. But it's going to be a really fast and furious session where it's based around all of the stuff that tends to hold us back and make us feel like we're stuck. So are you ready, Mark? You ready to kick off, Tiger?
Let's go, boss.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to switch the screens now. I'm just going to oh my goodness, look at me. Look at that. Aha. So I've got this technology that allows me to flick between me, Mark, he's having a drink, busted. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Mark into the...
You're going to put me in the corner already?
Oh, nobody puts Mark in a corner.
Okay.
Nobody puts baby in a corner. So let's kick off. Let's get started. So what I want to talk to you guys about, I want to just quickly say good morning with all my love and heart. Because you are going to see me doing that when Mark drops some truth bombs. I'm going to do that because he's got some real amazing truth bombs that you guys definitely want to hear. So This morning, what I want to talk to you guys about is contrast. And, you know, we're certainly in a time right now where contrast is rife. Where, I don't know about you, I did a show the other day. Michelle says, there's Petal. So yes, Mother, everybody's saying hello.
Hello.
Happy Mother's Day to Petal. So we're in a time of contrast, and I did an interview the other day where I was talking about how, you know, for somebody who's in this kind of work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for somebody like me, I should be able to pick myself up relatively quickly. But I have found myself going from resignation to anger to fear to anxiety to resignation again to anger to venting to feeling all kinds of emotions because our normal has been taken away from us. And that tends to happen. Yeah. And that tends to happen when people lose that sense of control. Now, when we lose control, automatically and innately, what goes on inside of the space between our two ears is the brain tries immediately to regain status quo. It tries immediately to gain a sense of satisfaction, a sense of stillness, a sense of normality and what it's used to. Now, the minute we go into something that we don't feel we're used to it, we're in the fight or flight mode then. So it's all about challenge, change, all of those sorts of things. And when we're not in control, it heightens our awareness even more. So when we feel like we're not in control, what comes into play is contrast. Now it's contrast. So when I say contrast, and so I'm not saying, you know, difficulties or negativity. I'm not using that terminology. I'm talking about contrast. Because what's contrast for me may not be contrast for you. Because my status quo in my brain and my reptilian functionings, what could be contrast for me may not be contrast for you. And what's contrast for you may not be contrast for me. It depends on the degree to which we find change, lack of control and challenge. It depends on how far, I guess, we've stretched ourselves as to what we find contrasting. And I'll give you a quick case in point, is speaking on stage for 3,500 people is not contrast for me. Whereas for other people that I know and train, it's massive contrast. And it's also the number one most feared thing in the world, other than spiders, I'm sure, and snakes and nasty, crawly, cockroachy things. But that's contrast for people. Whereas snakes and crawly, yucky, slimy things, animal lover that I am, that's major contrast for me. But I think, yes, Sharon, you're right, my normal was broken. It was broken in a major way. And I think so when it comes to contrast, it's about being able to utilize contrast because we can't escape it. We live in a world where contrast is a part of who and what we are, and it is how we expand. It is how we become more than what we are right now. And that's really the key. It's being able to utilize that contrast to have us become more. So I'm going to show you how you do that. Instead of your contrast becoming something that makes you feel debilitated, inadequate, not enough, and makes you feel stuck where you don't move, contrast is a vehicle and an opportunity for you to accept, be in a place of acceptance with it, and then utilize it. Because whatever we resist persists. Remember that. Whatever we resist persists. So if I'm sitting around feeling resigned, anxious, fearful, all those emotions, and I sit there and I go, God, I wish I wasn't feeling like this. I wish things would just get back to normal. I want my normal back. I want to be able to go out and have a drink. I want to be able to go to a restaurant. I want to be able to go get my nails done. If I sit in resistance to everything, then I'm not able to be with what's present. So the first step is to get into a state of acceptance. It is what it is. If I could change it, I would change it. But if I can't change it, you have to get into a state of acceptance of what it is. Because only from acceptance can we create change. We can't create change from resistance. The two are diametrically opposed. So if we're sitting in acceptance, we can create change. If we're sitting in resistance, we're stuck. And then we start to swim in that. And then we become one of those, I don't know, one of those people that becomes a bit of a drain to be around. A little bit difficult to spend lots of time with you. If you're one of those people who sits circulating in how bad things are and how bad your life is, definitely you have to go there. You have to experience it. But then you have to get into a state of acceptance as quickly as you can. And one of the keys that I used to write down the middle of my finger here, 6 minutes. Because I'd let myself indulge in the sadness or the badness of it for 6 minutes. But longer than that, life is kind of passing us by. So then the next step is to look at what the experience is and really get in touch with what it is for you. So by accepting it, it means you're going to sit in it, you're going to feel it. So if I'm feeling resignation, or let's go with anxiety. If I'm feeling anxiety about how, particularly through this whole COVID situation, my business is tanked, everything that I, have been working on for the last 15 years, it's all changed. What's going to happen to me? If I'm sitting in anxiety around that, I need to really feel what anxiety feels like. So I'm not about to go for, because now we're going to play opposites. So I'm not about to go for the opposite of the word. I want to go to the opposite of the feeling. So anxiety feels tight. It feels like my stomach is in a knot. I feel a nausea, and my skin feels like it's on fire, and my cells feel like they're on fire. And if I let that go on too long, I get myself into a state of just absolute discombobulation. So the opposite of that feeling, so if what I'm feeling is all of that anxiety and that nervousness and that tension, the opposite of that for me, and everybody's going to have a different opposite, but the opposite of that sensation for me now is, you would think it would be peace. The opposite of that state, and see how I just had to do that? I literally had to get in touch with the feeling in order to come up with what the opposite feeling of that is for me. And the opposite feeling of that for me is actually action. Now, tomorrow it might be a different feeling. So you don't just want to do this and make the assumption that you're going to have that same, the opposite of anxiety is action. Tomorrow it might be peace. Tomorrow it might be freedom. Go with what's present for you in that moment, and that's what's going to be able to have you utilize that experience. So if I've got the opposite over here of anxiety, then for me, it's action. So I would say, okay, well, let's bring those two together, and it's the flip side of the same coin. On one side, I've got anxiety. On the other side, I've got action. So what kind of action can I take in the direction that's going to serve me the best? What kind of action can I take? Well, normally I would sit and I would think about my anxiety. I would meditate on my anxiety. I would try and get over my anxiety. But actually, in the moment right now, it's about action. So when I have anxiety, I have a better relationship with anxiety than what I do with action. So now I need to build my relationship with action, but action in the direction of what I want. Not action in the direction of sitting around and stewing and feeling sorry for myself. In this particular moment, it's about taking action towards what I want, and about me creating something that I can participate in, something I can create a new normal with, rather than feeling sorry for myself and feeling like I can't cope. So what I've been talking to you guys about this morning is the opposites. So find the feeling. The universe doesn't respond to what we think or we say, it responds to what we feel. So find the feeling that you have and recognize that it's a gift. It's the greatest gift, because it's how we learn as humans. It's how we learn. So recognize those feelings that feel stuck or heavy. Be grateful for it. Say, thank you so very much, universe, for giving me that feeling of anxiety or fear or anger. Whatever it is, those feelings that don't feel so great, accept it, get in touch with the feeling, and then go about finding its direct opposite. And then once you've found the direct opposite, realize that it's the flip side of the same coin. So don't try and stop yourself from being angry Because if you try and throw out anger, you're going to throw out peace, let's say. We're going to throw out peace along with anger. You can't do that. Anger has a place. It's a very normal emotion. It's purposeful, so let it serve its purpose. Find its opposite and then begin to build a relationship with that opposite. And the only reason that you have a better relationship with anger than what you possibly do with peace is because it's the nature of our society. We feed off negativity and we conversate and we join groups about negativity. But our job is to really use all of those heavy emotions as a platform to have us leap into our expansion and leap into our next level of life, rather than having those feelings leaving us stuck. So that's my 15 minutes done. So I'm going to hand over to Marc now, because I didn't realize actually, but for me, being about anxiety and action right now, then it's about taking action in the direction of what I want. It's kind of like a perfect segue into our gorgeous, spunky Marc. So I'm going to hand you guys over. Any questions, post them on the feed here, and over to you.
Yeah, cool. You're pretty good at this, Carren. Have you done this more often?
Well, you know.
couple of years.
couple of years. I think Sherelle summed it up. When I got broken, I had to figure it out.
Yeah, well, that's it. Hey, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, read Carren's book, by the way. I'm not marketing you here, but read it. It's actually a really good book. Yeah, The Soul Survivor. Yeah, it's awesome.
Thanks, Marc.
Anyway, side point. Hey, I've got my 10 minutes, and I tend to go over time, so I'm going to go as quick as Carren did.
Go you.
Yeah, go. Yeah, it's a good point, Carren, and it's funny because we didn't really even compare notes, but the stuff that you say is the stuff that I totally believe in. I've always been a firm believer in universal laws, and yeah, you got the law of rhythm, you got the law of vibration, you got the law of gender, you got the law of reciprocity, and the law of polarity is one of them. You know, the law of polarity that says for anything to happen, or for you to have any idea about what it is that you want, you need to have an idea about the equal and exact. Yeah, that's it, law of polarity. You need to have an idea of the equal and exact opposite. And you might think, oh, that's a bit woo-woo, that's I don't believe in that stuff. Well, even Isaac Newton, a number of hundreds of years ago already said every reaction or every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's a Newtonian law. It's the third one, I believe. And one of my mentors, he doesn't really know that because I've only met him once, but John DiMartini, he always talked about the fact that, in order for us to get an idea about what it is that we want, we need to go to that place where we actually don't want to be sometimes. So he says in really simple terms, every stressing has a blessing. In every stressing, there is a blessing. There is something good in everything that happens, even if you can't see it. And I have, and Carren has, and I think everyone on the planet has had times in our life where stuff happens, you go like, seriously? Like, there cannot be any good in this. It just cannot be. There can't be any good in this. And, I'm 51 years old now. I firmly believe as a counselor and, as a fellow human being, like there are. It might sometimes take you 15, 20 years to find the blessing in the stressing, but there is always one, or more, or multiple. And I think to go into that space of the polar opposite, to actually experience that dark night of the soul, if you will. Yeah, and COVID is one of them. I've had this conversation with pretty much every counseling client now. Some people say, oh man, this is so bad. But if you then look at what good is coming out of it, the things that people start to do, the connection with other people, the reading books instead of, stupidly watching screens, the finding better ways of doing stuff, the finding blessings at home, the reorganization of the home environment, the closer connections within a family. There's all sorts of stuff that come out of it. So something that I've always used in client session, for every price with a C that we pay, there's a prize with a Z that we get. Always. Flip side is true as well. Every prize with a Z that we seem to get, there's always a price with a C that we have to pay for that. But it's our job to find out if the prize with a Z is willing to, or is worth the price with a C. And sometimes, price has a prize and prize has a price. Same thing, just reverse. It works the same way. The yin-yang symbol says it all. For every one side, there's another side. Well, I can keep going on about that one, but it's actually one of those truths. Marianne Williamson, don't know if you know her. She's an interesting lady. She talks about the law of divine compensation. The law of divine compensation said that for everything that seems to be completely intolerable, that you can't seem to get out of, there is something in there, and as long as you're willing to find it, you will be able to find it. It might take you a long while. It might be instant. It might take you a number of years. It might take you a lifetime. But you can find it if you're willing to look for it. So it's very much an attitude thing. And that's the practical side that I work with clients on. Like, I get many clients coming in, they say, Marc, my life sucks, and I actually have no idea what I want. I just know that this is really bad and I don't want this anymore. And I said, that's brilliant. And then they look at me a bit vaguely and go, like, are you off your nut? It's like, how's that brilliant? It said, well, to be in that space, in order for you to be in that space and say that this is not what you want, you must have an idea what's on the other side, because otherwise you couldn't say that this is not what you want. So you must have already a mental, emotional idea that this is bad, which means you have to be able to contrast it already internally somewhere with something that's on the other side. Because otherwise you couldn't call this bad. Day, night, dark, bright, black, white. You have to have that idea. If everything was good and you wouldn't know what the opposite of good is, then you couldn't say, well, this is good, because you just don't know. So when people come in and said, I'm really in a tough spot and I don't know what to do and I don't like this, I said, well, let's start there. Let's start with what you don't like. And they go, like, but that's not what I came to counseling for. And go, like, no, but it's the greatest springboard for you to use in order to get to that other spot. Now, Carren does it in a way that she says, look, start with feeling. And when I was listening to you, Kaz, I think, yeah, that's actually a really good way of doing stuff. I generally do it the other way around, maybe because of my goal-setting, coaching type background. I go with people, and here's one I prepared earlier, actually. I'm going to try and get this into the camera. You might not be able to see, but it's a really simple sheet that on one side says don't want, negative, negative, negative. On the other side, it says do want, positive, positive, positive. And this is the only time when I allow people to get really negative with me, to do some work where we say, if you don't know what's on this side, if you don't know what you want, if you have no clue, that's fine. Let's go with everything that absolutely, totally sucks right now. What is not working? How is your life bad? What don't you want to see in your life anymore? What would you like to get rid of? Get really clear on that. Because once you've done that exercise, then what Carren says, well, get into the feeling space of that. I like that, actually. That's really cool. But you can also make it really practical and say, well, find the opposite. If you say, look, I don't want to be poor anymore because I'm just completely out of money and I don't know what to do. I want to be out of debt. Say, okay, I want to be debt-free. Or I want to be financially abundant. Or my relationships suck because it's just, I can't seem to get along with people. So, look, I want to have loving and fruitful and successful relationships with people. So try and find the opposite. And it's not always easy to do that on your own. So that's what people and like Carren and I come in, is like we can help you brainstorm all that stuff. But a really good exercise, and I really encourage you to do this, even though it seems too simple for words, is get really clear on what you don't want anymore, what you don't like, and then start finding the opposites. And the only thing you really have to do from that point forward is rip that one off, toss it, don't ever look at that thing anymore, ever. As much, and that's an attitude thing, but start looking at this. Now, this might look vague. It's like, I want to be financially abundant. Well, so what? You're like, okay, but now you've got something that Carren said you can get into the feeling space of. Like, how does that feel? But from my, whip cracking point of view, it's also something you can start to set goals around. Like, what would that be like, financial abundance? How does that? What is that? How much money would you have in the bank? How much would you have? Just cash. What would you want? How much is enough? Or relationship with what people, in what sort of areas, work, professionally. So you can grab all these life areas, finances, relationships, social, personal development, spiritual. You mentioned them, all those areas, and we can talk about the wheel of life another time. But get really clear on what is important for me. What is it that I want that I feel I don't have now? And how can I really start to either talk with people or do it by myself, start to set some goals in the direction of that? Then you're on your way. It's as simple as that. And does that mean that you will not feel contrast anymore? No, you probably get your nose rubbed into the feeling of that negative every now and then, because, the road to achieving goals is not always an easy one. But as long as you can keep looking at the prize and it's worth paying the price, you'll keep doing it. And I've had people say, yeah, that sounds really easy, Mark, and I wish it was for me. It was like that for me. And I go, you know what? And I do get stroppy with some people every now and then, and I mean well. But I said, look, ultimately, it's a matter of keeping your eye on the prize. Yeah. A funny guy who I really enjoy, Swami Beyondananda. I don't know if anyone knows him. He said, you know what the secret to succeeding is? He said, find the seed in what sucks. And I really liked that one. I thought it was awesome. Find the seed in what sucks. That's succeeding. Yeah. Keep your eye on the prize. Again, 15 minutes. I wish I could talk an hour about that, because there's obviously more nuances to this. But there's definitely an element of truth in this attitude thing, and say, yep, I can stay focused on what I don't want, what's not working, what's not going well. And you got every right to. But you got to know that there's another side of the coin that's equally true. Yeah, it's equally true. It's there because it's there by the sheer nature of the law of polarity. And you get to pick on where you look by every choice and every action you make in life. So if you want to know more about that, talk to Carren, talk to me. I don't know, don't care. Talk to anyone who you actually respect. It doesn't have to be either of us, but talk about what's on the other side, realizing that both are necessary to get to where it is that you want to be. Don't discard the one. Actually get into that feeling of anxiety. Do it, because it's just a feeling. And I know sometimes it's a sucky feeling, but in that moment when you're safe, it's not hurting you other than just you feel it. But you can use it as a major stepping stone, a major springboard to get to another space, another place. But you got to use it. Because if life was all one the same thing, then we'd all be flatlining and be boring as crap. So I don't want that. So give me contrast, not too much, thank you very much, universe, but give me enough of it to use, and I'll use it. That's me, because I'm looking at the clock.
You're hilarious. So we've still got a couple of minutes before we have to hand over to Michelle. So, what do you think would be a really good next step for our listeners? What do you think?
Well, I think doing that exercise, that actually years ago that really was useful for me, and it's not a nice one, because initially you do get into that like, oh my God, this is not working, that's not working, I don't like this, I don't want to have that anymore, this is really bad. But to do that one, it really can propel you into another way if you're willing to rip that paper up once you've written the opposites down. So that exercise is one that, look, it's not mine. I've learned it from my mentors over the years, but I've found it a really useful one to get really clear on, this is what I'm saying no to, and that's cool, and this is what I'm saying yes to. But most people stay hanging there in the no bit, and you got to use that no bit in order to get to the yes bit. And then from that point forwards, it's yes only. And then you'll get new no's coming into life, because they always do, but you just keep adding to the yes list. And once you do that, that becomes an attitude thing where you can work forward. So to do that exercise would be a real cool one. And I'm happy to help. We're here for people. So even if people just want to send me a message or whatever, or send it to you and then you forward it on to me. But to do that exercise is quite cool. It's a really good start to something that could keep propelling itself forward if you're willing to give it that attitude and that attention and intention.
I heard a really great phrase, intention, attention, no tension. And I'm reminded of that as you're speaking about, looking at some of the comments from Sharon and from Laura. Thanks, Laura. But I think what is really, really cool is to be able to recognize, like you've said, and we've said this morning, recognize that everything is for a purpose. It's actually there for a purpose. We have these experiences so that we can grow, and so that we can know ourselves more. We can know who and what we are and what we're capable of more. So it's almost like looking at all of these experiences, good, bad, and indifferent, however you want to classify them, as an opportunity to know yourself more and then utilize that to become more creative. Whereas I think what tends to happen is people, we kind of, and I don't know why we do this, but we tend to be conditioned to feel the feelings and get stuck in the feelings and not actually learn what to do with them. And that's what Michelle's going to take our kids through in the next session, is teaching our kids that all the feelings and the emotions are normal, but what do you do with it once you've got it? You know, what do you do with it once it's there? Because it's all temporary, right? Like, nothing lasts forever, and I am not anger, I'm just feeling anger, or I'm not anxiety, I'm just feeling anxiety. So what do I do with it when I've got it? I want to make it useful. I don't want to make it self-destructive. I want to make sure that everything that I experience actually serves me. And that puts us back into the driver's seat and calms that mental process of feeling like we're out of control and out of the status quo.
Calms the farm.
Calms
Absolutely.
the farm. Yes. I love it.
Calms the farm.
Well, this has been amazing. Marc, you're a bloody legend.
Oh, yeah. Back to you, sister. It's pretty good. I love this.
So our time is up. Squish is going to be on for the kids right now. So everybody, we're going to sign off and say goodbye. Happy Spirit Hive Day. Make sure that you join us here on the second Sunday of every month. We are going to continue to do these online because it gives us an opportunity to reach our global audience, which has been pretty profound. So we're looking forward to being able to hug you in the flesh, though. So make sure that you stay in touch with us. Get ready to spend some time with Michelle. This has been amazing. Thanks for putting up with the new technology. Hopefully it's all come up well. Love you guys. Have a great day, Marc. You're a champion. Happy Mother's Day to Simone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.